I'm making this video because time and time again, I see people picking up a fragrance just completely based on somebody else's opinion instead of their own. Welcome back, cologne abusers. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what steps to take when choosing your next fragrance. Now, if you have a huge collection, maybe this might not pertain to you as much, but for those of you who are starting a collection, maybe you only have a few, or maybe you have 20, or whatever it is, I'm going to try to help you choose how to pick your next fragrance. So number one is kind of a no-brainer. This is pretty much determining your budget, but I'm putting it up first because too many times, especially when you start getting a little bit addicted to buying fragrances, you sometimes lose sight of what really is a priority in your life, and you can start overspending a little bit on fragrances. So make sure that when you're allocating a budget for your fragrances, that is money that you can definitely use for that, and you're not going to miss payments or something else or whatever it is. Just make sure that the money that you're using you actually can spend, and you're not just putting it on a credit card and then just praying for the best. Number two is to set your intention for why you are buying this fragrance. Are you buying this just because you like this scent profile, or are you trying to buy this to impress somebody else? Now, a lot of creators are going to sit here and tell you, oh, you should never buy something to impress somebody, which has some truth to it. But let's be real, when it comes to fragrances, a lot of times we wanted to do it, to impress somebody, if you're going on a date, you want to make sure that you're smelling good for the other person. And I don't see a problem with that, but you need to make sure that you're drawing a line on how far you are going when it comes to, trying to please somebody else with your fragrance taste, if that makes sense. So it's okay to try to impress somebody else to a certain degree. Make sure that you are actually enjoying that fragrance because you actually truly love it, not because you're simply wanting to buy it because somebody else might like it, right? So it is super important to realize that it is your money that you're spending. So you don't want to get caught up spending money on fragrances that is just simply to try to get compliments. Because what happens if you don't get compliments? Then you basically, you're not getting what you want. It's not worth the money to buy something that is just for somebody else. That's why I emphasize so much that when you want to buy a fragrance, be sure that that profile is something that truly makes you happy. Because even though compliments are really, really nice, and sometimes we can wear it so that you look better in front of other people, again, there's not a problem with that. But make sure that is not your only focus. You don't want to buy something just for somebody else. Step number three is the most fun in my opinion, because this is choosing what scent profile you want to go for. Essentially, you can base it off different things. You can either try to get something else that you don't have in your collection. Like for example, if you mostly own fresh fragrances, you can try to get a sweet one to kind of balance it all out. Or you can think about what season is coming up. Like for example, if you have a lot of winter fragrances or fragrances that are better fit for cold weather, then maybe you can go, for a summer fragrance since that might be coming up. You can also, base a fragrance based on notes that you already like. For example, if you happen to be blind buying, which I don't always recommend blind buying, but it is fun, I will admit. But if you're wanting to blind buy a fragrance, maybe you can read some reviews, you can look at the notes, and then just buy off based of scents that you already, or you can just buy off based on notes that you know that you're already gonna like, if that makes sense. Number four is often overlooked, but in my opinion is very important. How big do you want the bottle? Now, if you're trying to build up a bigger collection, it might be better to get a 50 ml fragrance instead of getting a 100 ml. You're gonna save a little bit of money on it that you can put towards another fragrance in the future. Or, you can always just go for a bigger bottle if you really like that scent. It just depends on you, but make sure that the decision that you're making is logical to your goals. If you want a lot of fragrances, maybe the 50 ml is better for you. If you want a smaller collection but higher quality fragrances in each one, then maybe you can go for the 100 ml. But just make sure that you are clear on, what size actually works for you. And number five is actually choosing where you want to buy the fragrance. There is a lot of options when it comes to buying fragrances. You can buy, retail in person, like at Neiman Marcus, Sephora, Ulta. You can buy online at different niche perfumeries. You can use fragrance discounters. You can sometimes buy off of Facebook. but each one has pros and cons. Sometimes when it comes to retail store, their stock might be better. Like a lot of times fragrance discounters might not have all the fragrances available at the moment. So retail stores usually carry more stock. So you might be able to go with that. Now, fragrance discounters, you might be able, as long as it's a trusted website, you might be able to find the same juice at a cheaper price. So you always want to look at that. And then Facebook groups, sometimes you can find used fragrances for a lot cheaper, but just be super careful, because I've known a lot of friends, thankfully I haven't been scammed yet, but a lot of my friends have been scammed off Facebook groups. They pay a certain amount of money for a fragrance thinking that they got the deal of the century. Turns out the fragrance is fake, and now you're stuck with it. You either have to throw it away or, try to resell it, but that's kind of messed up. But at the end of the day, just find something that works better for you. I'll tell you, from me personally, I buy off of certain discounters sometimes, but I do buy a lot through niche perfumeries, because, especially La Jetée Perfumery, because it is a smaller niche store and I want to support them. You personally don't have to do this. That is just my perspective. But just make sure that in general you are choosing what better works for you in terms of where to buy the fragrance. For those of you who are looking to buy your next fragrance, I hope this step-by-step process kind of helps you to figure out what you want to buy next. But the biggest thing that I want you to think about is that you need to make sure that whatever you buy, even if you do want compliments, whatever you buy it for you. Don't spend money for somebody else. If you like this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and like I always say, follow Tony Aromas for more.